F it. I'm just gonna I don't wanna like I don't wanna say something that's gonna like people are gonna hold it over my head and say sorry, I'm getting emotional about this.
Luxury fashion YouTubers and influencers now suddenly selling everything.
I am getting rid of every luxury handbag I own that has a prominent logo on it. And
just because you wear logos doesn't mean you don't have a personal sense of style.
This is not who I am, and I kind of feel like, oh my gosh, am I going to have an awakening?
The way I had so many questions.
Like, shut up. Like, shut up. That's what I thought.
Like, what's the message we're trying to sell here? You know what I mean? I'm Caleb Snell, and today we're in for an intriguing conversation with a figure who's been raising eyebrows and turning heads in the Lux community. Niki Sky, who boasts over 500,000 subscribers on her YouTube channel, recently fell under scrutiny after making her announcement to bid farewell to designer labels. Her decision to purge her closet of anything adorned with a prominent logo was met with fervent debate, both amongst fellow YouTubers and fashion enthusiasts alike. Before we dive into this conversation, I'd like to invite you, the viewer, to enter this with an open mind as we examine the motivations and convictions behind Niki's decision. Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you so much for talking to me, and I'm really, excited to see what the questions are, and I really appreciate you making this response video to my video. I didn't expect to get the response that I did, but here we are, and yeah.
So, how did you feel about the response videos that you received?
Honestly, I was taken aback. I didn't expect to get the response that I did. My intentions were never to do this for the attention or anything like that. I know it's maybe it's hard to believe looking from my videos from an outsider's perspective, but I'm actually very introverted. I'm a very private person. So to see all of these strangers essentially making videos about me and taking a lot of things out of context, it made me feel sad, to be honest. It made me feel very misunderstood, and I tried to come from a good place, and that's why I want to sit with you and have the hard conversation and be asked the hard questions. I have nothing to hide, and I just want to lay it all out on the line.
Perfect. Yeah, no, completely understandable. I myself am an introvert, so I can only imagine like how some of those videos would have made me feel. So thank you for taking the time to sit down with us and answer some questions, though.
Of course.
Yeah, we received quite a few. So I guess we should start at the beginning. Like, what kind of inspired you? Like, you talked a lot in the video regarding Dr. Shefali's book, The Heretical Awakening, about micro and macro traumas in the past. Was there like one particular moment that kind of inspired this journey that you're on?
So I feel like as humans, we all have our micro and macro traumas in our childhood that we grow up with, and it kind of shapes and molds us into who we are. And I definitely had my fair share of micro and macro traumas. And there were certain situations that happened in my life that I guess, first of all, I didn't have the emotional intelligence and the awareness to understand what those situations were. And I realize now that I never really had the opportunity to really process those events and deal with them in a healthy way. And it was only since I became a mom and started to do the inner work and started to do the hard self-reflection that I started to heal from those past micro and macro traumas and realize how much they really did affect me. And Dr. Shefali's book kind of helped me bring all of those things to the surface. It was a very powerful and emotional transformation for me. And just in general, since becoming a mom, a lot of my priorities have shifted. So about 10 years ago, I started a hair extension company, and I sold that a couple of years ago because I just felt like I didn't connect with it anymore. Like as much as like we all grow, we all change, and it's impossible for people to expect me to be the same Niki that I was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or whatever. Like that's part of human evolution. And I think it's an amazing thing to change, to grow, and to learn from your past mistakes. So her book definitely brought a lot of things to light for me. And it was like, I would say, the main catalyst for me to get to the point where I am now. But really, like, my motherhood journey is really what kind of started the process. I think I didn't have the tools that I needed to kind of figure out, what do I do with all of these feelings and that I'm feeling, and like the misalignment that I'm feeling from my new identity and my old identity. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. It does. No, it totally does. You're so right. Like, as people, we're constantly evolving, we're constantly changing. What was it about this journey that kind of made you take a look at the designer things in your closet and say, this is no longer who I am, and make that pivot in your closet?
It's kind of, it's really hard to explain, because there's no really a logical rationale to explain the kind of shift that happened in my mind. All I can explain is, like, since I was a little girl, I was always very independent, and I always wanted to be successful in my own right. I never wanted to be taken care of. Also, the situation that I grew up in with my parents was such that I really grew up with not very much. And that experience taught me that I can only depend on myself. And so since, like, I could remember, I was very entrepreneurial. I was always trying to make my own money, figuring out a way to, like, to buy my own things. I never asked, people for anything. And I kind of had that, like, hustle mentality from a very, very young age. I moved out and got my own apartment by the age of 19. And I thought that, okay, like, I'm doing this, I'm making my money, now what? And I guess the social media culture and, like, the influencer culture that I kind of accidentally got myself into because of my hair extension business kind of persuaded me to believe that I needed all of these things to kind of feel successful, or, tell the world that, I've made it, which in hindsight obviously is not the right thing. And also, I did love these things. Like, I don't get me wrong. I think the things that I did acquire over the years, they were beautiful. I loved them. Like, in the moment, they excited me. I love fashion. I've loved fashion ever since I could remember. I used to sit in my grandma's apartment and, like, take her old things like pillowcases and clothing, and I would make my own things. Like, fashion has always been a part of my identity. And I thought that if I had all of these luxury items, that I would feel accomplished. I guess, now looking back, I didn't really get the validation that I needed from my family. So I felt like getting that external validation would kind of compensate for that. And since becoming a mom, like, obviously my priorities have shifted. Like, my family, my children, they're my number one. And I would rather, put my money into savings for their future. I would rather put it in investments. I'd rather spend it on experiences, taking them on vacations and just doing things with them. Just those things no longer bring me the same joy and happiness that they used to. And also, another layer to that is, I feel like the influencer culture has kind of gotten out of control, to the point where people who now can't afford those things are buying those things because they're seeing them on social media, and they think that they need to buy those things to feel like they're good enough. And I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to be sending out the wrong messages to people. And also, I don't want to influence people one way or the other. Like, I can easily afford those things, but I chose not to have those things because I don't think that first of all, it makes you more worthy or unworthy to have or not to have those things. It all comes from the inside. And the other point to that is that I think that personal style is so much more than luxury labels. And that's something that I also want to touch upon through my future YouTube videos, is how to find your personal style that aligns with your true self, without, copying another person, and without, buying all of these expensive things to kind of make you feel good about yourself.
Something that you read from Dr. Shafali's book, the poem "The Time of an Awakened Woman," when you spoke about the external validation, for lack of a better word, kind of reminded me of the quote, "When the approval of others wants jewels, just pennies in her sock." I thought that was a really overall the poem was very beautiful, but that for some reason really stuck out to me. One of the questions that we received was regarding the viewers that you've had for a long time. Some of them expressed feelings of maybe having been duped, for lack of a better word, along the journey, and then now with the pivot, they kind of feel like, we bought these things because we were shown that, like the Chanel and things like that. What would you say to those people now with this current shift in your direction?
I would say that, I'm human, and I just want the permission and the space and the acceptance to grow. It's not like I never fooled anyone. Since day one, I have always been very selective with the brands that I work with, and everything that I have promoted throughout my entire YouTube career or in my social media career, I have used myself and loved myself. Like I don't have any regrets because I truly use those things. I truly found joy in them or purpose in them. And I've always used this platform as a way to share the things that I love and the things that I use myself. Just because I don't use them anymore doesn't mean that, I try to dupe someone. As long as someone else is finding joy in them, then that makes me happy. I never made those videos to judge anyone or to make anyone feel, like, I'm judging them because I've changed and they haven't. Like, everyone goes through their own evolution at their own pace, and this is the pace that I'm going at. I gave this a lot of thought before I made those videos. I knew that I was going to potentially trigger some people or offend some people, and honestly, that was the last thing I wanted. Sorry, I'm getting emotional about this. It's just that I always just want like the best for everyone. I want everyone to succeed. I just want everyone to be happy. And I just want to bring awareness to topics that I feel like are creating a disconnect from our true selves. And I feel like the direction that our culture is going in, it's just, I feel like it's gone too far. I really think that it's gone too far. And I'm just trying to like help everyone just see things from, I guess, a third perspective. That's all. I'm not trying to tell people, oh, you have to change. No, I'm just trying to help people see things from another point of view and maybe start questioning things a lot more.
Now, speaking of the clearing out of the closet, how did you kind of decide what pieces were going to fit with your new mindset? What pieces had to go? And did you end up keeping anything that may have not fit into the new mindset because it had a sentimental value?
Yes. So I noticed that I had a lot of questions and comments about like my Van Cleef bracelet and my Cartier bracelet. So, and I know I have a lot of other luxury items that I kept. So for me, there was a lot of thought that went into it. And I just wanted to clarify that I'm still not at a place right now where I feel like I've completely cleared out everything. It's a process, and it's going to come with time. Majority of the things that I did decide to part with, I just felt like either they didn't serve me anymore. Like with my current lifestyle, I have to be very selective with what I keep because I have 2 small children. I'm constantly running around after them. I can't, like, as much as I love a classic medium flap, like realistically, I can only fit a couple of things in there. Whereas now, like I need a proper like mom bag that can carry all of my things. It's not a everyday bag for me. So the most of the things just didn't fit in with my current lifestyle. And also I wanted to try to part with things that were like, that blatantly had like a logo on them, because I like I want to help people understand that they don't need to buy these luxury things to feel enough, or like they're stylish or whatever. Because again, I don't want to send the wrong message that you have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to look this way. You can still look stylish and you can still look chic and put together without spending all of that money. Like if you're making money, it's like, invest it somewhere, invest in your future. Don't, like, the first thing you do when you get your paycheck is not going to buy, a Chanel bag. That's not what I want people to see, to understand from looking at my content. So the things that I did keep, yes, a lot of the things did have sentimental value. I never said I'm becoming a minimalist. I never said I'm getting rid of every single luxury item that I own. So I feel like a lot of the things that I said were being taken out of context. I also feel like I don't have to explain myself for every little thing. Like the Cartier bracelet, like this was a gift to myself when I was pregnant with my son. It does have sentimental value to me. Like in hindsight, would I get it again if I were pregnant? Probably not. I don't know, blame it on the hormones. I don't know what it was, but now I can't get rid of it because it reminds me of that time in my life. This Van Cleef bracelet also has sentimental value to me because it was my first like luxury jewelry purchase when I was traveling in California, and my cousin like helped me get it. There's a whole story to it that I'm not going to get into, but yes, so I did keep some sentimental pieces that, remind me of those times in my life that bring me happiness and joy. Is it a necessity? No. But at the time, it makes me happy. Maybe down the road, I'll decide to sell it. But that's how I kind of look at it right now.
So you mentioned earlier that you wanted the permission as a person to kind of grow and discover who you are. And with questions like, the jewelry in the video, what was sold, what not, do you ever feel that as a content creator, you feel like you have to be all one way or nothing at all?
I do. I feel like people do put you in a box. Mm-hmm. It's, one of, humans' natural habits is to put people in a box. If you're not this, then you must be this. If you're not this, then you must be this. I don't like to label myself. I don't like to put myself in one box or the other. I'm a very open-minded person. I appreciate learning and listening to different perspectives from different people of all walks of life. And all I want is just the same grace for myself to do the same. I'm not going to be the same Niki that I am now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. I'm constantly going to be growing and changing. And to put me into a box is very unfair in my point of view, because I honestly don't even recognize the girl that I was myself 5 years from now. Like, mm-hmm. I think that's a big part of why I've been pivoting and changing my content so much on YouTube in particular. Like the progression of the content and the direction that I've been going has changed so much, and it's been changing based on what's been happening in my personal life. And I think it's also hard for people to understand and connect with that, because I don't vlog. I don't really share what's going on in my personal life. I keep all of that very guarded. I protect my family and my friends. I rarely post anything that I'm doing with my family in relation to other people. Like if I'm posting, I'm just posting like my immediate family, because I want to protect other people's privacy as well. So I understand, like, people for looking from the outside, they can take things out of context and start putting labels on me. But behind the scenes, I just want people to understand that there's a lot of work that goes in, not only into my businesses and to my YouTube channel, but also a lot of work that I put into myself. And I do try to share as much as I can, but since becoming a mom, I definitely had to create boundaries, because for me, my personal peace and my time with my family, that is what I prioritize more than anything right now.
You mentioned in your video that you were done with these designer things and letting them define you. You've also, pivoted towards selling those items, yet you still own many things that render the same results that those other status symbols held. Would you in the future, will you be like maybe downsizing your home or maybe changing cars, things like that?
Um, okay, so to address the luxury items thing first, I literally got rid of all of my like logo handbags and like 90% of my shoes. I have maybe, I don't know, like 15, maybe 15, 20 pairs of shoes left, majority of those being sneakers. And also handbag wise, I have maybe six, six left. I have one designer bag left, the Christian, I have a Christian Dior bag, but the only reason why I didn't sell that one is because it has my name embroidered on it, and I thought no one would care to buy that one. But I'm still like, I'm debating whether or not I should sell it just because I'm not really going to get much use out of it anymore. I just wanted to address that because I remember watching a review response video that someone published on YouTube saying that I had like 67 handbags and now I have 17. I never even had 17 to begin with. So I don't even know where people are getting these numbers from. But yeah, I have about 6 now. And I'm not planning, I know a lot of people were wondering if I'm planning on replacing those items. No, I'm not planning on replacing them. I'm not going to be going out on a shopping spree. I'm approaching this transition in a very mindful and intentional way. If I am going to be bringing something into my life, I'm going to make sure that it's something that fits with my lifestyle, that aligns with my new identity. And I definitely feel so much better and so much lighter with less. And I've been enjoying shopping in my own wardrobe so much more recently because I feel like almost everything in there aligns with my new lifestyle. And it's like a joy getting dressed up majority of the time now. I'm not going to say it's perfect. Obviously, we all have our days, but like I've never been more happy with my wardrobe than I am now. In terms of the house, so this house, my husband and I built from the ground up ourselves. It was an investment. We started building it pre-COVID, even before I got pregnant with my daughter. Honestly, I never wanted such a grand house. I've always lived in small homes. I came from, a very humble beginning. And, this decision was not an easy decision to make. But for the land that we had, investment wise, it was just a smarter decision to build the size of the house that we decided to build for resale purposes. Down the road, I would love to downsize. I would love to, have a small, little cabin in the woods with my own garden and a huge property for my kids to run around. But that's not my life right now. My husband's parents are literally across the street. They're like very helpful with the kids. So my family is here. My my daughter goes to school like just around the corner. So for right now, it makes sense. Do I wish our house was smaller? Of course, I wish our house was smaller. I think it's excessive for what it is, but again, it was an investment, and for resale purposes, this is what we had to do. In terms of our cars, my husband and I, it's not like we have Ferraris and Lamborghinis. I drive a very, conservative Tesla. Yes, it's probably, I guess more luxury than most cars, but I can easily afford it. And the reason why I got it is because it fits 2 car seats comfortably in the back, and it's the safest car in the world right now. That was my main intention, and I don't plan on replacing it anytime soon unless a safer car comes out there. But for me, my reasoning to get that car was I just wanted the safest car, the most reliable car that will get me from point A to point B.
Now, speaking of your home, I recently watched your video with your husband where you talked about designing your closet, the design inspiration, the Montclair, which taking the camera to Montclair, that was absolutely genius, by the way. How does having a closet that was designed to emulate a luxury boutique, how does that fit with the new aesthetic and the new direction you're going with?
That's an amazing question, because I do often find myself kind of conflicting with myself, just because I feel like my identity has gone through this dramatic transformation. I still love design. That's never changed. I've always been very creative and artistic, like since I was, since I was like 4 or 5 years old. I was like drawing and sketching things on my own. I just appreciate design. I appreciate high quality things. And for me, it was a dream to have a dream closet. And I built that. We created it, and I'm very proud of it. But it doesn't define me as a human. It doesn't. If I didn't have that closet, I would still be the same Niki. You know what I mean? My closet, yeah, like it excites me to get dressed in there and every single day. But I don't know. I don't feel like I don't feel, what's the word? Like I don't feel attached to it. It's not an attachment. It's just there because it's part of the house. Yes, it's beautiful. And we did, find inspiration from luxury houses, but again, like it's just a closet, just a very nice closet.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, I think oftentimes, especially here in the luxury space on YouTube, people get caught up in order for it to be good design or to be worthwhile, it has to have a designer name or label slapped onto it for it to be, worth anything. And I think that from chatting with you that, you're very clear in what your style is, where your style is going. What would you say to the folks who might have the opinion that, if a bag's not stamped with Chanel, it doesn't belong in a beautiful closet? Like, what's something that you would want them to take away from that?
I want people to understand that a lot of these luxury brands, they have premium markups because of not so much because of the materials and the hardware that they use for their bags or for their shoes or whatever it may be, but they're doing that because first of all, they want to set themselves up as like a premium brand. Like the reason why Chanel kept marking up their prices over the years was because they wanted to be seen on the same caliber as Hermes. We all know that. Did the quality of the bags get better during that time? No. In fact, some people would argue that it got worse over time. I had some vintage Chanel handbags. My grandmother has a vintage Chanel handbag that was plated in real 24 karat gold, and like the quality is completely different. Like the stitching is completely different. So I would argue that the quality is worse, but you're paying a premium because people want to be part of the club, right? I also think that you're paying for marketing, you're paying for the packaging, you're paying for the overall experience. I recently did discover some more niche brands, one in particular that I am really considering of purchasing like an everyday bag from. No logos, very clean, and the craftsmanship looks like impeccable. And if you knew the price, like for the quality, you would be floored. And I think it's a gorgeous handbag, gorgeous. And honestly, I don't see how the quality is any worse than Chanel or the other luxury brands. I have a friend that purchased a bag from there and I saw it in real life and it's just incredible. So I do want people to understand that you are paying for the name, you are paying to be, it's more for the status symbol. I don't want to use that word because I know I'm going to offend some people, because I know a lot of people genuinely do love the designs and they do love the brand houses, and that's perfectly fine if you can easily afford it and you want to build up a luxury collection. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's just a choice that I decided to make, especially knowing that I have so many impressionable women and men that follow me. I don't want to send out the wrong message that you have to have a Chanel bag or you have to have an Hermes bag. Otherwise, like you don't have personal style.
Yeah.
And I think that's BS. Like honestly, on a daily basis, if you saw the bag that I wear, it's like a $60 bum bag with all of my kids' stuff inside of that. That's what I wear on a daily basis. But that's it. That's the season of life that I'm in, and I don't feel any less worthy wearing that. And it's just sad that we live in a culture that kind of makes people feel that unless you have like, you know, a go yard, mom bag or whatever with all of your kids' stuff, and like, who are you? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's just crazy to me.
So, as content creators, we're often approached by brands for whether it's sponsored content, things like that. What are you going to be looking for in brands moving forward to make sure that they align with your values?
I think that's a great question because I have been faced with this question myself for, ever since I made this pivot. And if I'm completely honest with you, 99% of the sponsorships I've been receiving lately, I've been turning them down because I felt like they weren't in alignment with myself. And since day one, that has been my number one priority because for me, my reputation and my relationship with my audience is more important than, getting, a buck or two. Especially because this is not like my main thing. I see YouTube as kind of like my side hustle business, whereas like the digital businesses and products that I created, that's like my bread and butter, right? So I take brand sponsorships very, very seriously. And I want to make sure that any brand sponsorships that I work with moving forward, of course, they need to align with my new identity, but I also need to be able to envision how these things work with my lifestyle. I don't want to be promoting anything that I don't actually use myself. Like I said, I did, like, obviously throughout my entire career, I have been using all those things, but because I've kind of narrowed my focus a lot more recently, I feel like now there's a lot of things that I don't use as much. I don't find so much of a purpose in. So yeah, recently the brands that I have negotiated with, I've actually been very hands-on with those negotiations, telling them that unless you can agree that I have full control, because a lot of the times like brand sponsorships say, okay, we're sending you this and you have to say this, and that's the deal. So now I'm very firm in telling them what I want. And if they can't agree to that, then it's not going to work. Because for me, the most important thing is that I'm doing things and I'm talking about things that I truly believe in. So yeah, I've been very thoughtful and very mindful about that, very intentional with the partnerships that I'm working on right now. And everything that, my audience will see moving forward, I want them to understand that a lot of thought and consideration has been put into everything that I'm talking about. And I would not be talking about it unless I stood behind it 110%.
Speaking of brands and branding, several people kind of pointed out that maybe there was a greater intent behind your "It's All a Lie" video. Are we able to expect like maybe a new brand or a new company to come from this on your end?
I was laughing when I was reading some of the comments about people assuming that I'm starting my own clothing line, and the rumors are not true.
Okay.
I'm definitely not coming out with a clothing line. As much as I love fashion and like it would be a dream to have a clothing line, it just no, it's not for me. I feel like enough people are doing it in this space and they're doing an incredible job at it, and I feel like for me, there wouldn't really be a gap to fill. Again, I really just want to I am working on something. That's all I'm going to say. I am working on something and I've been working on it for a few years already, but it's something that aligns with my new identity and it's something that I'm extremely passionate about. And yeah, I think it will take a lot of people by surprise because it's very unexpected and it's not anything that that a lot of content creators, I guess, are doing right now. I want to create something with more impact and something that's more of like a legacy brand that I can maybe one day pass over to my children.
Now, one big question that I had personally, in watching your most recent videos, I think like your last 5 or 6, you've really talked about this topic quite a lot. I'm curious to know like how much time went into thinking of making this pivot from the moment that you read Dr. Shafali's book to then deciding to sell everything and starting a new path.
So After I read her book, but so like I mentioned, this transition or this disconnect for myself, this evolution, all started around the time I got pregnant. Like it kind of started happening before. I was going through, a lot of fertility struggles before, and I was at the lowest point in my life at that time. And then when I had my daughter, things kind of just started to shift, and I started to feel like, whoa, like this old life of mine, like it feels so foreign to me. I feel so disconnected from me. What is going on? And it took me a while to kind of figure out what's going on. But I feel like I never really gave myself the grace of time and space to really figure it out, because I was so into the thick of it with the diapers and with the feedings, and then also with the old like partnership responsibilities that I had. Like I was constantly on go 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 mode, and I feel like the last year or two I really allowed myself permission to take a step back from social media. And whenever I felt like, I was getting anxious or overwhelmed, I would take a break from social media. And I feel like those breaks really allowed me to do a lot of self-reflection to understand what's going on. And that's when I kind of started to realize, okay, maybe, I don't feel aligned with what I'm doing, because, I'm doing the same thing that I was doing before I got pregnant, and I've grown, I've changed. Like maybe I don't want to talk about only fashion anymore. Maybe I want to talk about deeper things, but like, does my audience really care about those things? So I had this constant like back and forth in my mind about what to do and how to do it in a way that would make me happy, because I felt like for a long time I was creating content for others. I wasn't really creating it for myself. I was creating it for my audience. I was creating it for the brands that I was working with, and I felt very empty. And then after I read the book, I'm like, oh my God, like everything just makes sense. Like everything that I went through in my childhood, everything that I'm going through now, everything is just starting to click. And honestly, like I can't even tell you how many times I broke down reading that book, because I had to be real with myself. I had to be so honest and like really, really break myself apart into a million pieces and kind of put myself back together again. A lot of healing came from that experience, and I just felt like, you know what, F it. I'm just gonna go all in and just start making videos that I wanted to make for a really long time. I want to make a real impact, and I feel like this, in a weird way, is my act of service. Like I just want to help people become more aware of themselves and more aware of the culture that we are living in right now, not only for ourselves, but also for our children and, the future generations. I just want to make a positive impact. That's truly, truly what I want to do. And for the first time in my entire YouTube career, I can honestly say that I'm making videos for myself now. And I don't care if my videos have, 1 million views or 100 views. Like at the end of the day, I'm making them for me. So as long as I'm proud of them and I'm passionate about what I'm doing, that's all that matters.
So within the luxury space, we've seen quite a few larger creators leave and pivot towards other things, whether that be Anna Bay, Caitlin Powalski, I think a few others to name, just to kind of throw those out. What would you say to people that might say that you're just doing this because it's part of a current trend?
I completely understand why people would assume that. Without trying to offend anyone, okay, I don't even know those content creators. Like I'm sure they're fabulous, I'm sure they're incredible, but I myself like don't know them. I haven't seen their content, so to make that assumption is if when it's based on something non-factual, it just, in my mind, it just doesn't make any sense. I understand that maybe, minimalism is trending right now, and a lot of people are going more towards, that I don't want to say extreme, because I feel like, again, like I don't want to label people. I don't like putting people into boxes. Just because, you know, you decided to purge a lot of things does not mean you're becoming a minimalist. Like I'm definitely not a minimalist. Like I have 2 small children. My basement is full to the brim of like their old clothes that I still haven't gotten rid of, and like toys, and like it's a mess. Like it literally looks like I had a tornado go through my house. I'm not a minimalist. I'm simply just trying to remove things from my physical space and my mental space that no longer align with my new identity. That's how I would explain it. And I'm really happy for anyone else who, you know, is making this realization. I say good for them. But I just want to ask, you know, kindly, that people are not so quick to make assumptions, and are more open-minded to people growing and changing, and just giving them the space to do that.
So in your video where you were going through and explaining the thought process behind selling things, you did say that the proceeds from that video were going to go to a charity, and then a small percentage from the sales would also go to charity. Was this just one charity? Was it several? And can you speak to those?
Yes, of course. So I just want to clarify that. So the consignment retailer that I'm working with, that's helping me sell all the things that I purged, they're taking a commission. Like they're not doing it for free. They're working, like they're spending a lot of their own time, and that they're like taking cataloging everything, like taking photos of everything. So they're not doing this for free. I'm paying them just as, you know, another one of their clients would. Mm-hmm. The only reason why I promoted them is because I've been working them for many years and I trust them. And just in case, I thought if anyone is local and they're looking for a reputable luxury consignment store to work with, that's why I plug them in. I just wanted to clarify, because I feel like a lot of people always assume that just because I mention someone or promote something, it must be paid, or it must be, mm-hmm. you know, like I must be benefiting from it in some way. Absolutely not. They're getting a commission, and I am donating a small portion of the proceeds from all of the sale of the items to Yellow Brick House, which is a local nonprofit, and it provides protection and shelter for abused women and children in difficult situations. And it's a charity that I personally have been supporting for a long time. There's a lot of charities and nonprofit organizations that I've been supporting over my career as a digital entrepreneur. I just don't like publicize it, because I feel like, you know, if you're going to be doing a good thing, do it because you want to, not for the validation. But yeah, I just thought I would mention that because it is a cause that's important to me. And yeah.
From a personal space, like with family and friends, what was their reaction towards you taking this new journey in your life?
That's a really good question. So for the most part, I did receive a lot of support. There were a couple people who were like, why are you doing this? Why? I don't understand. Like, why can't you just keep the things that you have and just not buy anything else? And so I had to explain my reasoning. And I totally understand that, like, not everyone is going to get it. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, if I'm going to stay true to myself, I need to do what feels right to me. Mm-hmm. Thankfully, my husband, like, he's been incredible. Like, we've been together since I was 14 years old, and I'm 34 now. So that's 20 years. Yeah. And I've gone through so many changes and transitions throughout our relationship. And every time I went through something, he's always like been the most supportive, given me the space and like the chance to figure things out on my own. And like, I feel so grateful to be in such a loving and understanding relationship like that. And for me, that was all I needed. Like, knowing that he had my back on this and he understood why I needed to do this just gave me the strength to just like push through all of the pushback that I was getting from others.
Now, with selling everything, do you have any regrets? I know it's still pretty early on in the process, but is there like any items that you're like, oh, I wish I'd kept on to that?
To be honest, no. I can't really think of anything. Like, everything that was precious to me, I kept. Like there were some jewelry pieces that I kept because like they were handed down to me from my grandmother. It's like anything that has sentimental value, I kept. And like everything else is just, stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. What would you say in your personal life, your day to day, what has been the most positive impact in your life after making this decision and this whole process that you've been through?
I think the main thing is just having mental clarity.
Mhm.
Like I feel less overwhelmed a little bit, especially like having such a crazy lifestyle where I'm constantly like go go go. The last thing I want is to walk into my closet and be like a bomb exploded and like stressing out what to wear, like on a daily basis I live in like t-shirts and sweatpants, like that's my uniform. So like the fact that I had all of these high heels and like all of these beautiful handbags, it just is stressed me out because I can't enjoy them, I can't wear them, and they're taking up precious space in my closet and in my mind. And I just want to be able to go into my closet, grab what I need, and just go, So I feel like just in general, getting dressed now has been a lot more enjoyable for me because most of everything that I have left are things that like I know I feel good in, I know look good. And everything is like in a very similar color palette, so I can easily put outfits together without having to put too much thought into it. And overall, I just feel like that's such how much time, like if you think about how much time do we waste coming up with outfits and putting things together, trying them on and seeing, oh, like this doesn't feel good, this doesn't look good. Like it's such a waste of time,
Yeah.
When you have things in your closet that you love and that go with so many different things in your wardrobe and just makes your life so much easier when you're trying to get dressed. It just in general, it just like makes everything so much better.
Do you think that with the seasons of life, do you ever think that you would find yourself in a place where you might add another Chanel bag back to the collection or an Hermes Birkin, or is that too far in the future to tell?
As of right now, I really don't see myself doing that.
Yeah.
I don't want to I don't want to say something that's gonna like people are gonna hold it over my head and say like, oh, you said that you would never do this. Like I'm not gonna say I would never ever, right?
Yeah.
Because if I buy like some jewelry, or if I I don't know, my husband gifts me something and people are like, I thought you said you were gonna buy that. Like, what am I gonna say? So I don't want to. I want to be very careful and not say anything that's going to get me into trouble.
Yeah.
But right now, where I stand,
Mhm.
I don't see myself buying a luxury handbag. To be honest, I feel like I am missing a few things,
Mhm.
but I do want to take my time and really make sure that whatever purchases, whatever things I do bring into my closet, that I put a lot of thought into them. And they don't necessarily have to be designer, even though I do appreciate high quality things. They don't have to be designer. They just have to be well made. They need to stand the test of time. They need to be really durable. I just want to look for things that are made out of really good premium quality materials. That's my main thing right now.
Now, a lot of people want to know, myself included. Can you walk us through the initial process, like your thought process in buying the Birkin, and did it hurt to sell a little bit?
Yeah. So the thought process with that Birkin, okay, so originally I really wanted to get a Kelly from the boutique. Like I love the Birkins and Kellys, but I was set on a particular size and color and hardware. And I love the shoes. Like I love the Orans. I love the Chypre. I still have majority of my Orans, and I have like one pair of Chypre left. They're super comfortable and they're super versatile, and I feel like they will stand the test of time. That's why I decided to keep them. So if anyone comes at me, that's my rationale. But yeah, I kept like all my neutral sandals. So with the Birkin and Kelly, I just thought that it would be a good timeless bag to add into my collection. That I like to have things that I'll be able to rewear year after year for a long period of time. I used to buy things and get sick of them after a year or two and sell them. And with that, it was a very intentional purchase. And I really wanted to get it through the boutique. And I tried to play the game, and I decided that it's not for me. Like, I don't have the time to be going to the boutique every single week or whatever, trying to haggle the sales associate, and that's not me. And I can't, I know a lot of people naturally are schmoozers. I'm not a schmoozer. I can't be like, oh, that's not me. So I realized that it's not going to happen for me. It's probably not going to happen that I'm going to get it from the boutique. And Haute Classics, the boutique that's helping me sell all of my pre-loved things, they had a beautiful Birkin in incredible condition come in. It was a vintage. And it had all the specs that I wanted in a Birkin except for the size. So ideally I wanted 30 and under. This one was 35. And I thought, okay, right now, I'm always carrying so many things with my kids. Maybe the 35 will come in handy. I kind of justified it in my mind, and plus the price was great. So, anyways, I decided to jump on it. And to be honest, I wish I put more thought into it, because I did end up regretting it pretty quickly. I took it out a few times, and it was just too heavy to lug around. It wasn't hands-free. It just wasn't practical for my lifestyle. And it was just getting in the way all the time. So I decided to sell it. And I didn't realize that because it's a vintage, it's older than 10 years. I wasn't able to sell it for the same amount that I bought it for. So I did end up losing money on it. But at that point in my life, I was already in the moment of purging everything. So I'm you know what, whatever. I'm not going to use it anyway. So I'd rather take the loss than keep it around and just have it sitting on my shelf collecting dust. But yeah, it was not an easy decision to make. And, I like to look at regrets as lessons. So that was an expensive lesson that I made, but it is what it is. And all in all, I don't regret selling it.
Now, I know we're running out of time, but what would you think what would be the big takeaway that you would want the viewers to take from this conversation?
I just want people to really look inwards and ask themselves the hard questions. Why do you want certain things? What is the message you're trying to send? Are you purchasing certain things because they align with your current identity? Or are you doing it to get validation from others? I also just want people to realize that, as amazing as these things are and they're beautiful to look at the end of the day, they're just things, and it doesn't define who you are. I personally, when I think of the greatest people in my life, the things that stand out to me about them are not their luxury collections or the houses they live in or the cars they drive in. It's how they made me feel, their kindness, their compassion, their energy. That's what I want to surround myself with. I want to surround myself with people and things that bring meaning and purpose to my life. And I feel like that's what life should be about. That's what makes our life so rich. It's not about, I said this a couple of times in my videos, but it's not about being cash rich. It's about being life rich. You can be cash rich, but life poor. And yeah, and overall, I just want to encourage people to make intelligent financial decisions. Just because, you see someone walking around with a Birkin or Chanel doesn't mean that they can afford it. So, you have to look at those things from a third perspective, really ask yourself these questions, and don't feel less than just because you don't have those things. I don't have those things now, but I feel free. I feel liberated. I feel amazing. And I just want to help people get to that same point. And yeah, there's so much strength in that. And I think that's beautiful.
I think that's a good note to end on. I really like that. Well, thank you for joining us today and for answering the questions. And I think I can speak for everyone when I say we're pretty excited to see where your next chapter takes you. And we're looking forward to seeing what the future brings.
Thank you so much, Caleb. This has been such a pleasure. And again, thank you so much for for everything, and just like our interactions even before this interview. Like I felt your energy, and I felt like, this just, my intuition was telling me this was the right thing to do, and I'm, excited to see what everyone's how everyone's going to take this in. And I appreciate you taking the time to ask me these questions, and thank you. I really appreciate everything.
Thank you. As we come to the end of our conversation with Niki Sky, I'm left to reflect on the depth and complexity of her journey. I wasn't sure what to expect when I first started speaking with Niki, but what I found at the end of our conversation was a complex individual who's seeking the freedom to explore her true identity beyond just the designer labels. It's a journey that resonates with many of us, reminding us to seek authenticity and to embrace our individuality. Now, before we part ways, I'd like to remind the viewers to keep their comments below respectful. Let's foster a safe space where diverse opinions and perspectives can be shared and celebrated. And to Niki Sky, I'd like to extend my gratitude to you for sharing your story with us today. Your journey of self-discovery is both relatable and inspiring, and I know many of us will be following along as you document it. Here's to embracing authenticity and the beauty of being true to ourselves. Until next time, guys, stay safe, have fun. I'll see you all in the next one.